back to what you said there, Miriam, you know, it is about it's about reflecting, and it's about supporting as best we can.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm just, yes, go on, Simon, and I'll bring Sarah.
No, carry on. No, Sarah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You can.
Right. In my 20s, I was in and out of counselling. I had a lot of trauma in my life, and it was awful. Anyway, I found this counsellor's very, like, because I'm a girl and that, and I'm telling you, like mothering. They were like mothering, like, and I had 6 sessions free, and I felt like they were rushing me, and they had no idea of my situations because of my disability and able-bodied people and reaction and that. I just felt they had no inconnect, no, they couldn't relate. They couldn't relate, and because they've never dealt with it before. Yeah, I was in and out of counselling sessions. Oh, and I went to
CBT.
Yeah, and all she gave was, she was a trainee, and she just gave me like photocopy sheets. So I've only ever had one session with a counsellor that's exhausted me, and that was a male counsellor. And yeah, but I just feel that I've been to counselling for gambling. I've done loads. It's just I've never found the right counsellor. I've always, it's just, maybe it's me, maybe I can't do it, and maybe they say I'm storytelling. It's like I'm telling a story, and
they can't cope with what you're telling them, Sarah.
Pardon?
That's because they can't cope with what you're telling them.
Yeah, so
they don't understand.
No, they don't. But I want. There is a woman. I've been looking on their website. But she's able-bodied, but she's got a child, a daughter who's got Downs. But the thing is, if I went to her, a lot of it's about a certain person, and she knows that certain person, so I can't go to her. So I feel like there's nobody that's, and also I haven't just got CP, I've got achondroplasia, spinal stenosis, and CP. So I've got a few 3 in one go. So I feel like, I'm in a lost end because, yeah, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sarah. I think just listening to what you were saying there, I think it's important because you've obviously not had the best experience with counsellors, and I just want to say, as a representative of Disability Plus, I might, for example, if you were talking to me, I might not be the right person for you, and that's the thing. It's about trying it, seeing if it works for you, and we are here to offer that support. And a good counsellor with experience isn't going to lock you into a contract. Is not going to lock you in. You can try it and you can experience, and see if it works. You could go to that example that you gave, and it might work, it might not, and you could come to me and it might work and it might not. But we can try, we can listen, and we can offer the best support possible, and that's what we're here to do. And we're here to support you, basically, is the paramount message, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I just want to jump in. I almost jumped in before Sarah. Sorry, so I'm not a great Zoom worker, so I didn't realise when there's a hand up, that means there's you kind of, someone's asked a question. With a lot of disabilities, and I think CP obviously comes into that. I said earlier, there's a sliding scale or a pendulum of almost like the beginning and end is almost like an invisible disability with CP, and then it kind of goes up to, you know, moderate, more severe, and so forth. And a lot of people say to me, well, is actually the more severe have more severe mental health issues, or the other way around, or what does that look like? And actually the answer is everyone's got a different expectation or a different thing going on from their lives. You know, people that's got an invisible disability with CP may have a small tremor, they may have something that's quite unseen, but actually they feel lots of shame, they feel lots of social anxiety, they feel lots of things like that. So everyone's got a different expectation of what their condition is going through as a sliding scale. Now, the reason I bring this up is because actually, as we move up through the sliding scale, we start getting to assistive devices. So obviously, eye movement and, you know, basically the typed communication where speech is a problem. And, you know, on the face of it, you know, how can you do counselling for a community that can't communicate? You know, and we've been asked that question. You know, me and Dom and a few of the other team, you know, we really struggled to find a solution. But what we did in the end, and we tried it for the last 3 weeks, and it's worked quite well. So when a person comes into us who hasn't got any speech, what we do is we communicate by email with lots of questions and answers and everything else. So the assessment session is done by email. So we send a form out, and the form is then completed and sent back to us. The counsellor then looks at the form with all the questions and answers and everything else that goes with that. And then the counsellor then sets some questions. The questions then go back to the person affected. And this is where it gets interesting. This is the point when the person then types in all the answers into the communication device, you know, however they do that. The session then starts video to video. And let's say it's Dom in that session. Dom would then ask the question again. The person would then press the button to release the answer. So that's how we create the two-way session, because otherwise what would happen is, well, it just wouldn't be possible. So that would mean we weren't accessible. So we've tried to become accessible. We're also trialing a multi-camera system, so we can actually have a video on the communication device and on face to make sure. I guess where I'm trying to come from is we can't do everything by type. We have to have one of the biggest things about counselling is facial expression. It is seeing the counsellor, how he responds to you, how the person responds back. And, you know, by doing it this way, we feel we found a solution that is working at the moment. So I just wanted to put it out there that we have found a solution, and it's done via pre-programmed responses for the person. Then what happens is once those responses come in, the counsellor can ask questions again, then that can be programmed in. It's longer sessions, and obviously there's a lot of prep work goes behind for the, you know, the client and the counsellor, but it is working. So I just want to put it out there that we are doing our best to make sure we are completely accessible to everyone. Any questions on that? Because I'm sure I kind of waffled on a bit there.
I can't see any hands up on the chat at the bottom.
I can see someone waving.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can see someone waving as well. Who's waving? Please release, open up your, unmute yourself so you can speak, because I can't see you.
It's Mandy.
Oh, thanks, Becky. Mandy, unmute yourself and off you go. Try again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Got you, Mandy.
Hi, Mandy.
Hi. It was just when I was listening to the girl there that went to counselling. well, this is going back a bit because my daughter's 15, but when she was born, I actually had postnatal depression. And in my opinion, I think it was because it was brought on a lot because of my difficulties with my CP, because I felt like there's things I couldn't do with the baby, that I shouldn't be able to do that, and because I needed a lot of help, and also because I felt very judged by people, so that made me have postnatal depression. And so obviously I went to the doctor and they gave me all the usual antidepressants and the spiel about how not everybody, but a lot of women have postnatal illness. And it was very supportive, very understanding. But as soon as I said, well, actually, I think that I've got, because he was going on about hormone imbalance after pregnancy. And I went, well, actually, I think it's because maybe of my disability. And it was very dismissive of that idea. So obviously I didn't get any counselling or anything. I just took the antidepressants and through to actually on a other side issue. I was a member of a 12-step programme for many years. So I kind of applied, Dawn and might know what that is. So I kind of applied what I learned in the 12-step programme to my postnatal illness, and obviously I just got through it. But I think they didn't really take on board, no one really took on board that it was maybe my CP that was bringing on the issue, and that's kind of what you were talking about earlier, that that the disability compounds the anxiety and things like that. So I think a service like that, like you have now, would have been great for me to talk to someone like a female with CP who maybe understand the difficulties. So I think it's a great thing that what you are doing, because I feel that, I did have postnatal depression. A lot of women do have it, but the reasons why I think I had it was very overlooked. It might have been a hormonal thing, probably partly was, but a lot of it was to do with my disability. But that's all I want to say. But thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mandy. Yeah, I was just reflecting on what you were saying. Yeah, it is that lived, it is that experience that you've had, and it sounds like it was quite traumatic. And like you say, if it's great that you feel like you could benefit from something like Disability Plus, I'm just sorry it wasn't there for you at the time. You still there?
As I say, I don't think that I have any sort of like the problems now. Because I do apply my 12-step program every day, about like a day at a time, and having gratitude and things like that. And I've learned to speak things out, but I just think that at the time it would have been absolutely fantastic to have something like that.
I mean, it is a great service, and obviously we've seen people benefit from Disability Plus, but thank you so much for sharing your experience and obviously what you've been through. And it sounds like the 12-step stuff has been beneficial for you more recently.
It has, because you can apply it to everyday life. But obviously it doesn't work for everybody.
No.
And some people might need more support, like one-to-one. So that's where you guys would be good.
Absolutely. Well, we again, that's the point for Disability Plus, and what I found so supportive about it is that we're trying to match people. We match people with cerebral palsy counsellors with cerebral palsy to clients with cerebral palsy, and it is a process. You know, it is a process. You can talk about one thing one week, another thing another week, but like I said, fundamentally, we're there to support you and what you want to talk about and what you need to discuss in that time.
Really good. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's interesting because we, you know, what happens is we do loads of these talks, you know, over the last 6 years, not so much on CP, because we just started it, but, you know, the big word mental health, it often gets brought up time and time again for a badge on this or a badge on that, you know, everyone needs to talk and everything like that. I find, and please bear in mind, I'm not a counsellor, you know, so you've probably gathered that all by now. I'm quite straight talking. When I look at the general population, they talk about mental health. I get it. I understand it. When we start going to more severe disabilities or severe conditions, mental health is not really where I'm looking anymore. You know, I don't believe there's that huge mental health problem. And the reason for that is people with disabilities, and, you know, all people with disabilities, including myself who's got epilepsy, we have a be strong driver. We have something in there that says, we're going to get over this. We can manage. We can do this, you know, because we're not like everyone else. We've been fighting all our lives. And the day we've been born, we've been fighting, we're doing, you know, I haven't got mental health problems. I've just had a few situations lately. I just need a pep up. I just need this. I haven't got a mental health problem. And I think that's what I'm trying to get across here, that actually, you know, counsellors may look at you or may talk to you and say, oh, you've got a mental health problem for this and that. They don't understand disability. They don't understand your struggle. They don't understand your fight. They don't understand people holding eye gaze with you for a few minutes and how that makes you feel. You know, about going for a restaurant, going for this, going for that. There's so many things, you know, benefits is, you know, there's so many things that you just want to scream and scream and scream, but it doesn't mean to say you've got a mental health problem. It means you're having a tough bloody time at the moment and you need some support. And I just want to get it out there that mental health, all this whole thing all over the news, the media and everything else, you know, I don't know. I walk down the street, so I got a mental health problem. You know, they blame everything on a mental health problem. It drives me insane. I sit there and go, they haven't got a mental health problem. You know, so I just want to put it out there that we don't believe everyone's got a mental health problem. So the stigma should never be there, you know, especially with men. You know, more men need to come and see us just for a little pep up. You know, it doesn't mean to say you've got a mental health problem.
Thanks, Simon. Dean, you've got your hand up again.
Yes, I have. Thank you, Miriam. And having spoken already, I don't want to take up too much time. But I just wanted to say that hearing from what Sarah, from what Mandy, and from what Don and Simon have said since I spoke, it seems to me that in other formulas, like NHS formula, if a person goes to a counsellor and they go off script, then the counsellors the service can be quite dismissive and say, and there isn't a help. But where the difference between you guys is that you seem to have that package, and you seem to know how to actually speak to people, and that, like, I don't feel like I need counselling at the moment, but I think, like we learned tonight, is if I do need counselling or psychotherapy or whatever, I think I'm going to come to you guys for consultation, you know, and that to have that clarity, it means and it just means such a lot, because for a lot of disabled people in a lot of services, there are a lot of people who don't really understand cerebral palsy. And there are a lot of people who don't understand disability, and you're just going round and round in circles all the time. But this is really sort of, as I say, this has really been really helpful tonight, and I just want to say thank you very much.
Oh, that's great to hear, Dean. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I think what's important is that if anybody here was to come to Disability Plus, you know, and you were to work with me, if you come onto the screen, you know, I'm going to treat you exactly the same. It's not about judgment. It's unconditional positive regard. No matter what you come with, I won't pretend to know what you're coming with. I won't pretend to understand everything you're dealing with. But like I've said, and these are my buzzwords for today, and I'm aware that I've repeated some, I am there to listen. I am there to support to the best of my ability on behalf of Disability Plus. You know, I'm not reading off a script right now. This is me talking to all of you and saying it's a pleasure to be here. And, you know, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us. If you come to us, you know, we will listen to you. We will support you to the best of our ability. And there will be no judgment, because to me, that's what good counselling is. It's about no judgment, unconditional positive regard, and showcasing empathy, no matter who comes onto the Zoom screen or whatever platform we decide to use.
Do you know what's interesting is, you know, when I was putting this together, you know, like I said, it's taken 4 years to get the team together, because it is a large team with all the different disabilities. And we go to dinner parties or meet people, and oh, Simon, you know, here you're setting up the new counselling service. And when I start, you know, when I talk about a spinal cord injury, people get it, they understand it. You know, it says epilepsy, it says what it is on the tin. When I started talking about cerebral palsy, people say, oh, what's that? I've heard of it, but what is it? How does it affect people? Is it like Stephen Hawking's? It's the first thing someone says. Is it Stephen Hawking's? You know, and I have to kind of say, well, it's a sliding scale, but actually, what do you know about it? Nothing. Is it Stephen Hawking's? So that's some very educated people that I know have said that. Is that the same as all the counsellors as well? It's a question, isn't it? It's a question. You know, who knows? You know, when I was obviously we do a lot of research before we start service, and you know, I didn't know everything. Obviously, through my friend with spina bifida, I kind of had a good idea. But the more I've learned from Dom and from Liz and the other team, it's quite inspiring, to be honest with you, but quite annoying at the same time that everyone thinks you're Stephen Hawkins. Just so I put it out there.
I think, if to be honest with you as well, Dom, Simon, that's one of the big challenges that the community has, because cerebral palsy is an umbrella term, and because the area of the brain that is affected by the insult that happens during pregnancy, at birth, or within the first 2 years can be anywhere in the brain, then the representation and the impact can be a multitude of different presentations, both visible and non-visible. I don't know what the correct word is, invisible, with the abilities that are impaired. So it does make it very difficult for people to for adults to understand, and I think that one of the challenges, whether it's cerebral palsy or it's anyone with a child onset condition, is that there isn't a representation in the adult world as well. You know, you have one of the Instagram big Instagram ladies called Nina Tam, who has spina bifida, did a really interesting post earlier on this week around children in need and how that it kind of gets rolled out, and it's almost like a pity cause, and it's like, well, there's nothing, it's not wrong, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just is. But if you don't see representation as an adult, how can you educate people about what it's like to live with this? Because as we all know, children become adults. So any person with a child onset disability is going to be an adult with a child onset disability. And there's a lot of talk about representation at the moment. So I think that with the Rosie Joneses of this world, or the James Moore who's on Crossroads, or I'm trying to think of other people off the top of my head, I can't, Francesca Martinez, you know, with the play she's got on the National and the stand-up she does as well, there is representation. And if they talk about it, which they do, or they're not shy of saying what's, you know, what their underlying presentation why they present the way they do, then it just breaks that taboo, like we're trying to do with the mental health. And I think the other thing that we're trying to think about is, like you say, you know, we all have mental health like we have physical health, and it's just a state of where we are as people. So learning about how we manage challenging situations, etc., in our mental health living as well as our physical health living can be interlinked, but it's just normal. It's just life. It's just more complicated if you have a you know, a lifelong condition. But I'll stop talking now.
What's interesting, Miriam, and you said something really important actually that I want to kind of bring on. Does anyone here like Strictly Come Dancing? I don't know if anyone watches it or whatever. So last year, I know, I'm forced. But anyway, last year there was a deaf girl on there called Rose who actually ended up winning the show. So Rose is a good friend of ours. So what happened is the year before we've been campaigning for deaf rights and, you know, access to this and access to that, and up against the same brick wall, nothing's changing. Well, Rose done Strictly Come Dancing. It became a positive story where people began to love her for her, you know, the way she was and what she happened. Within 3 months of that show finishing, we had the BSL Act, we had every single thing that we ever wanted in place by the government, because public opinion and her representation of the deaf community changed everything overnight. When she won it that night, I said, everything has just changed, and it had. And that's what happened, you know, representation. So all the bloggers, and I think you've got a blogger coming on next week,
do.
I think.
Instagrammer, yeah. Joe Bird.
Instagrammer. You know, these people are so important, you know, to actually spread the message, spread the word, because actually we're not going to do it on our own. We need a celebrity. It's so sad, isn't it? It's so sad. But we need a celebrity who's pretty, who's everything, who's going to stand up there and everyone's going to go, wow. And then the world changes overnight. How sad is that?
I think it's interesting what you said there, Sam. I think we can all make a difference in our communities locally. I think this is one of the things I've realized through my work and some of my work in business, is that everybody here has the ability to change the world, but it's just a more gradual process than if we had millions of followers on Instagram, for example. I think there is something to be said for everybody. Everybody here, for example, being able to raise awareness and support within their community, within their friendship circle. Once that knowledge grows and that understanding, then, you know, again, it's a more steady process, because you're talking to your friends, your family, they're talking to people once they have the awareness of working with you. You know, it is a slow process. So I agree with what you're saying, and I absolutely do think that it's great having someone with millions of followers, and I think that awareness is fantastic. But I also believe that, you know, no matter how small your circle is, you are able to make a difference and an impact. It just takes more time.
Yeah, chalk and cheese. Everything's different.
Just to add on to your Rose story, she also got a doll with a hearing aid, didn't she?
Yeah,
it was
so
amazing.
Funny. It's so funny. So we're actually going to see her, and she's doing a show in London on Christmas Eve. We're actually going to go and see it.
Oh wow!
Obviously, it's all in BSL, so you know.
Amazing.
Luckily, I can sign.
So can I just come in just for a second? Can I just come back in just for a second? You know, mentioned Rose, the dancer that was deaf.
Yeah.
Was she the person who, when the music stopped, she carried on dancing?
Yeah.
Now, isn't that a powerful thing? What happened that night in terms of people's understanding of the deaf community? Because even I didn't see
everything.
it. Yeah, I didn't see it live. I saw it after. And I just thought, you don't need to explain that what happened when the music stopped. She carried on dancing because she was.
Yeah.
And you didn't need to explain. It was. You didn't need. You just didn't need to explain at all. I just thought it
She
was so
won that
amazing.
competition right there.
Yeah,
She won that competition in that moment. If no one was going to win it after that moment. But you know, I think Dom's right. You know, for me, I have to look at I guess the bigger picture of, let's get the rights. Let's make sure we get, you know, everything going in the right place, because we can use Disability Plus as an activist organization, which is what we did with Deaf for Deaf, to bang down doors. And Dom, you're absolutely right. You work on the smaller community, you know, helping people and spreading the word, and more localized, you know, within therapy and everything else, so helping from the inside out. And I think that's, you know, we're both right in what we're doing, just coming from a slightly different angle.
We certainly come together, though. I think that's the
Yeah.
idea, isn't it? You know, but
Yeah,
I've got a couple of questions from the chat, if it's okay to ask now. Someone has a living carer, which causes them quite a bit of anxiety. I'll just read it directly. I have a living carer which causes me a lot of anxiety and always seem to come up against new unexpected issues. I've had lots of CBT which hasn't helped. Just wondered how you would help me with this. If it would be better to have someone with CP and living carer and living care, if that would be possible, or if just someone with carers going in would still understand. I have other things that would be good to talk about, but everything tends to be affected by my care. Yeah.
So let me come in on this one. So if I look at all the applications we've had in so far, I say 8 out of 10 go along the carer route. Now the carer route is either there's lots of different carers coming in and going, and you know, the attachment is a bit of a problem, or there's a particular carer that the person feels controlled by. So the carer issue is huge within what we've already started seeing with the CP clients. So it's kind of what we expected, but probably a bit more than we expected from the outset. So we understand the carer situation. You're never going to find a perfect scenario of a counsellor has this, and this. What I can say is the counsellors will have an understanding of the carer issue, because it is an issue. Even when you have the best carer in the world, you know, it can still be of a, leave me alone, I want my own space, I don't want my dinner now, I don't want this now, leave me alone, leave me alone. That creates its own problems. So if you then take it forward to another scale of actually the carer, let's say it's a government provided carer that you don't particularly like, but you're trapped by that situation, that must be awful. And I couldn't explain it, but I'm sure, you know, the CP counsellors can. Hope that kind of answers the question. I'm sure Dom can give you a better analogy than I can.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it goes back to, you know, going into that question there from Janine. I think you've obviously mentioned you've had CBT there and it hasn't worked. It doesn't work for everybody. But coming to us, you know, it would be about, if you wanted to talk about the stress and anxiety that you're feeling because of that situation, you can talk about that. If you want to talk about the other things you mentioned, you absolutely can. I don't have carers now, I'm living carers now, but I certainly have done in my younger days. So I can empathize with that from to a point. But the idea is, Janine, that I would listen to you and I would try and understand your situation, you know, through our time together. You know, that would be the point of us, you know, beginning a therapeutic relationship, is you would come to the session with something and then we would work on it and discuss it over time. And my understanding of it would develop through my time with you. So I hope that helps. It is again, fundamentally about that empathy and understanding. I don't know what it's like to have the stress and anxiety that you're talking about in that message at present. But I certainly have some lived experience of it, and we can, you know, we will be able to work on it together as part of a session.
Amazing. Thank you, Dom and Simon. I've got another question. do NHS staff get slight priority in a Disability Plus service?
No, as far as I'm concerned, everyone's equal.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it must always be that way. You know, with NHS funding, it's a complicated process, and what I don't want everyone to come away from here is that, oh, well, I'll apply to Disability Plus and in 8 to 10 weeks I'll start counselling. It's a very complicated process that we do in the background. You won't be involved in any of it, but we do it on the background. You know, so it's not a flick of a switch, I'm getting funding. It's a process, and each area is different. But thankfully we have got a great relationship with most areas. But, you know, the answer is no, everyone's equal. And you know, we do our best for everyone.
Thank you for that. There are no other questions coming through on the chat. Becky.
Yeah, I was just going to ask when it came to the sort of funding thing, I've had to do a special funding thing for some equipment previously. And my GP was relatively okay about it, but I have heard of other people having trouble with the GP sort of refusing to put a special funding request in. So yep. Do you guys come across that problem, and is it one that you find ways of discussing with them and getting round, or not really?
So I'll come in on this one because it's very relevant. So for 2 years, Deaf for Deaf and me and the GPs banged our heads together for 2 years, and nothing was moving, and the GP became the gatekeeper. So what we decided to do is remove the gatekeeper. And when I said it's a complicated process, it means that the reason the GP doesn't want to do the funding request are because the forms are really difficult, and it would take around about an hour and a half, and it would need specific information on that disability. And it, you know, and we have to prove that the cohort is, you know, exceptional and blah, blah. It's very complicated. The GP would struggle. The surgery don't want to do the form. So we do the form for the surgery. So when we go to the surgery, we say, there's the forms, and there's the email address you have to send the forms to. And we also know the person that you're sending it to, and they'll tell us when you send it to. We're almost putting a gun to their head and saying, look, we've done everything for you, and there's no reason not to do it. With funding, there's 2 funding avenues. Well, there's 3. There is the mental health team that we've got a relationship with. So you can imagine the NHS isn't one organization. We all kind of know that now. It's 100 different regional operations. So we've got a relationship with lots of different mental health teams. So we can go directly to mental health director, say, got this case, yeah, no problem, sign it off, start, no problem. So that's one avenue. The second avenue is the personal budget. You know, a lot of you will get a personal health budget for lots of different things, and we can actually tap into that. So again, we would do the personal health budget, go to your GP, there it is, off it goes. The third one, which is the most commonly used, is an individual funding request. This is the one that the GPs will run a mile from. So they're the gatekeepers. We bypass the gatekeeper. We do all the work for the GP, who just got to send it on. So when we do an application, they go, Simon, thank you ever so much. There's never a problem, and it just moves through. Hope that answers the question. But yes, GPs, don't get me started.
Okay, I think thumbs up means, yep, she approved. That was really helpful. I'm just going to go to, before I go to, I think someone else had their hand up. Was it Mandy? No, sorry. Okay. Oh, Janine. So before I go to Janine, I just wanted to go to the chat. Sim asked, wondering if there are any BAME therapists.
Right. So it's valid. It's an absolute valid question. I'm going to go back to Deaf for Deaf. So Deaf for Deaf, BSL counselling, obviously, we're talking about 70,000 deaf people, all different levels of deafness. We've been doing it 6 years and we haven't managed to get one BAME counsellor. So that's the reality of it. Now, why is that? Well, it comes down to lots of different models. And my view, it probably isn't a PC view, that actually it's generational. As we move through the generations and wealth gets betterly distributed and counselling becomes more affordable to train as, then I think we will start seeing, you know, more of the community coming in. We are desperate, not want, we are desperate to find someone to come in and we can champion. You know, it hasn't happened. You know, and on a similar thing to what you're saying, that is dwarfism. Now, dwarfism, we've been screaming out for dwarfism for a long time. There's a problem there. You know, you know, we're not just talking about BAME, we're talking all different things. You know, the reason we're here is actually, you know, cerebral palsy for cerebral palsy. We're talking about the same thing, but I haven't found, I'm afraid, and I'm not going to stand up here and apologize, because we're doing our best. We're doing our very best. You know, we've now found a dwarfism counsellor. I can actually say that, and we're so happy about that. And the day, you know, we find BAME, then we'll be here on Facebook and everywhere else saying we finally done it. But it's not easy. It's not easy.
I think Janine's just popped off. I think she said she might get a phone call. Dean, do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to back up what I think it was Sim's question about BAME counsellors. Yeah, I just wanted just to say that about, well, many years ago now, 15 years ago, I was chair of a regional arts organisation in Manchester, which is no longer existing. And at the time, Arts Council England, as part of their 3-year funding for national portfolio organisations, which is what they call organisations funded by Arts Council England, their theme was they wanted arts organisations to make BAME, to make links with BAME providers within the arts. And we were very, very lucky that we had links with the Chinese Arts Centre in Manchester, where other areas in Manchester, and believe it or not, Manchester is a very multicultural area. They were finding it, and not just in Manchester, but in different parts of the country, because Arts England is Arts Council England is a national organisation. They were finding it very, very difficult. So I understand, you know, from what you said, Simon, about, you know, I'm glad you've got a counsellor now, one counsellor now, but for some areas it's difficult to get that, you know, and it's because, it might be because they're not, there isn't a BAME, there isn't somebody in the BAME group who is trained counsellor for that particular need, or a trained person for that particular need. But I just wanted to reflect there and just give you a bit of you know, thank you.
Thanks.
For Dom to become qualified, it would cost him around about 20 to 24,000. It would take him 4 to 5 years to get the basic level where he needs to be to kind of work with us. You know, it's not a job, it's a huge investment. And that's why when I said generational, you know, as wealth becomes more, then we expect to see more. You know, and that's the way I say it. You know, it's gonna come, and it's gonna come fast. And then we're all very happy, because, you know, Disability Plus isn't about disability, although it is. It's as much about discrimination as it is disability. You know, and by not having a BAME counsellor, we're kind of discriminating, but we can't do anything about it. You know, and that's why I am with it.
I think there's a point, though, that you have the awareness that it needs to be addressed, and that's all we can ask for. at this point, Simon, you know, and like you mentioned, it was a huge investment, and I worked other jobs to get my training and everything, but it's, you know, it's a great privilege to be able to come to events like this as a qualified counsellor and talk to people like yourselves and a movement like UP. It's wonderful to have this forum, I think, to discuss these things, and how not only how, you know, you the people that are here can benefit from counselling, but what we need to change and how we need to develop, because it's a constant learning process, you know, for all of us here, isn't it?
Is there anyone else who has anything they want to either write in the chat or put their hands up to ask a question? Anything that you think that you're curious about, that you might have heard but you're not completely sure?
Mandy wants to speak again.
Yeah,
Sorry?
I can see you.
Hey,
See you
Mandy.
waving.
Oh,
Oh,
Mandy, go for it.
sorry, I can't type very good.
Don't worry, I'm just trying to add the pin. There you go.
I was just going to ask, do the organisation offer training for people that want to be counsellors?
It's not as straightforward as that, unfortunately. There's a lot of processes you have to go through before you can even get to us. So you'd have to do a university or college courses before you could even come to us. And what we do is then offer free counselling for hours for people on very low mental health issues. So the reality is no, because like I said earlier, it's taken me 4 years to find this team. You know, so it would take another 4 years for people to start going through the process. So you know,
I think,
and then it's 20 grand.
Sorry, I apologize, because it sounds like I interrupted you there, Simon. I apologize for that. Going back to what Mandy was saying there, there are colleges and institutions that do offer support for people with disabilities. Obviously, the benefit system can work with colleges and universities as well in that sense. Certainly, you know, the quality varies where you study. You've really got to do your research in terms of BACP accreditation and things like that. But a lot of courses now, the different levels, are operating entirely online. I trained through the pandemic, and we found ways to counsel, you know, and I think that there is numerous possibilities for you now if you want to become a counsellor and you want to learn and you want to train. You know, it's an exciting time for people that want to become counsellors, because opportunities are opening up in ways that weren't possible before. You know, we're sat here talking on Zoom and Disability Plus counsels, you know, digitally. So, you know, I think going back to what you were saying there, Mandy, there's lots of opportunities for you if you do want to explore the counselling world. And people, in my experience, in terms of placements, in terms of opportunities, were very supportive in terms of accessibility, things like that. So, you know, but if you do have any issues or any questions, I'm sure myself and Simon will try and signpost you and support you if you need.
Okay, so I think we're coming to the end of the talk. I was just wondering if one of you guys could put the link to Disability Plus in the chat. Last time I tried to do it, it stopped the recording. So if you guys could do it, that would be amazing.
Dom's a techno man. I'm not.
There you go.
I'm on it. Well,
Delegation.
yeah, I will do that for you now.
Thank you so much, Dom. And I think all it leaves me to say is a really, really big thank you to you guys. It's been brilliant having you here, and it's brilliant hearing about how it evolved as well. And I think that one of the quotes that we really allude to in the charity that Emma and I really hold dear is that you just need a small group of people that want to change things to make things slowly happen. They may take a while, but they will with the right passion and enthusiasm. And I think, you know, that hearing the story of how it evolved for you, Simon, it really just echoes that as well. So thank you again so much. I'm gonna unpin you now, guys, so that we can just bring everyone back into the room. If I can work out how to do this. We're very professional here, you know. Just to let you know, we've been posting it on different social media platforms as well. The next 2 weeks we've got another 2 really exciting and different angle perspective speakers. We've got Joe Bird, who is known as CP Truths on Instagram. He has something like 76,000 followers on Instagram. And once you've seen him on Instagram, you'll know who he is. And he is coming to share with us his experiences of having having experienced being bullied, his own self-perception, etc., and how he's changed that round and how he maintains that for himself and how his perception of his life has changed. And we can see the impact of the effect and him sharing those sorts of things on Instagram. So that will be really lovely to see him. And then the following week we have a really interesting 2 people, Minelli and Jennifer, who are from the Weinberg Cerebral Palsy Center in America. And they we've invited them because they've got quite an interesting setup in there regarding the social worker and the care link worker and how they support the community and the different strategies and programs that they have that help support the community with positive mental health and working as a community, supporting each other. And Emma and I wanted to bring that to you because we think that, sometimes you see other really good models of way things could be and should be different in the UK, and we just want to share that with you guys because we think that we can learn quite a lot from them as well in moving the agenda forward for adults with cerebral palsy. So unless there's anything else on the chat that I've missed, I'd just like to say again a really big thank you to Simon and Dom for sharing with us. Sign up on Eventbrite for the other 2 chats, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
You can log me off mine, please.
Yeah, I will, Shard.
Thank you. Bye. See you next week.
Bye.
See you next week, Shard.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to put Janine in as well because I think she might be busy on her chat. And Mandy, do you want me to put you in the waiting room? There's a look of determination on your face. Oh, there she goes.
Sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to stick around and say thank you for that. It was lovely it's amazing. I want to come to some of these events. I'd love to. Love to join.
Yeah. Do you want to give me your email because then I can sign you up to the newsletter as well, and then see what else we're doing.
Yeah, please do. So it's my personal one is domsmithcounselling@gmail.com, but I do have, and I probably should, because obviously we're here on behalf of Disability Plus. It's dom@disabilityplus.org.uk. That should work.
Okay, I'll send that to you.
Brill. Do you want to give me yours as well, Miriam? Just so I can.
Yeah, of course. It's Miriam.
Right, bear with me a second.
Do you want me to write it in the chat? Would that be easier? Then
that'd be great. Then I can, because what we'll do is I'll drop you an email, because it's just coming on here was fantastic, just to see what you guys are doing and looking at the website and the resources you have. It's just, again, it's lovely to be told that from a counselling perspective, this is what people have been looking for. But certainly as a younger person, if I'd have seen this website, my whole world would have opened up. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
certainly it's wonderful to be a part of it. So yeah, if you just,
I think I put it in the chat to see if you've got that.
Bear me a second. I will. Right. So if I type that in there.